ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of week for Tea Time Wagers with Brady Kannon. This week at Wells Fargo. Big tournament this week. No Scotty, no Ludwig, no problem. We still have some big names, as Brady and the rest of the PGA like to say, if I'm saying this correctly, a signature event as we get the top dogs here at Quail Hollow. And we're very excited, of course, to break this down as we get 1 week closer to the second major. Will Scotty be ready? They still haven't had that damn child yet. Come on, Scotty, will you? I'm sorry, his wife. So without further ado, let's bring in the star of the show, Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, how are you, man? Yeah, I'm with you, on a couple of different fronts there. Really fired up about this tournament. We've got a great couple of weeks in a row. I've always really loved the Wells Fargo Championship. It's only 21 years old. And in all of those 21 years, they have not played Quail Hollow just twice. Once in 2017 because of the PGA Championship that was held later that year. And then in 2022 because Quail Hollow held the President's Cup. So 19 out of the 21 years they've held it there at this course. The players have taken a great liking to this track. It is obviously major championship worthy, a big boy golf course, as we like to say. And in just 21 years' time, it's really become one of the major stops on the tour calendar. The Memorial, Jack's Tournament, Riviera, the Genesis. Harbor Town's a biggie. Let's see, what else is in there? Torrey Pines, that's a biggie. The Farmers and Quail Hollow, and I'm sure there's a couple others that I might be missing, but those are certainly the big dogs, and Quail Hollow's kind of become a member of that fraternity, if you will, in a very short amount of time.
I got a bunch of questions for you before we dig into the meat and potatoes. First and foremost, great week last week. Recap the weekend, right on the doorstep right there with Norin and a couple others. Great on the match plays. You talked about holding back a few bullets in the chambers as you've been very successful in the live action. But take us back to last weekend and how you made out.
Yeah, I did really well. I had a really good year going, starting with the West Coast swing. And then I have to be honest, Jeff, I think your show was the curse. I got to the Florida swing here when we started with you. Just kidding, my man. I did not have a good Florida swing. And it's kind of been back and forth ever since. And that's when I started to kind of ask myself, because I've had, like you said, I've had great success in the in-game market. I have still yet to hit a pre-tournament outright this season. And I don't know if I've ever gone this long without hitting an outright. That's okay. There are other ways to make money. And that's what I did. I started doing the in-games and I've hit a number of them. I want to say it. If you include the Live Tour, it might be 8 or 9. I hit Brooks Koepka in Singapore last week, and I had the runner-up once again, of course, in Cam Smith, just like I had with Alex Noren at the Byron Nelson. But no, a good week. It was nice to have a real solid week. No questions asked. I had 5 outright selections and hit 3 of them for top 20s. And swept all 3 of our head-to-head matchups and came real darn close to an outright winner with Noren and Byung Hoon Ahn, who, it's interesting with Ahn. He actually gained over 3 strokes on the field last week with the putter, which is, not typical for him. And yet on that Sunday, I was on a show on Sports Grid in the morning and they asked me about him. And I said, well, Looking at the scores here, he's probably going to have to shoot 62 to get it done. And he nearly did. He missed like a couple of 4 or 5 foot putts on Sunday and ended up shooting 65. I mean, he could have shot 62 or 63 and maybe gotten at least into a playoff. And how about Taylor Pendrith? I mean, wow. Ben Coles kind of gave him that one. Oh, I felt bad for Coles. Goes into the easiest hole in the golf course with a 1-shot lead, and he's less than 30 feet away from the pin in 2 and finds a way to lose the golf tournament. That's pretty tough.
Going to jump over to Liv. Brooks Koepka wins the Liv. He was heating up last weekend, and the rumblings on social media, hey, the defending PGA champ, you better grab him now. There were some 20s out there, some 22 to 1s. He goes on to win the Liv. I'm looking right now at Circa's odds, 15 to 1 for Valhalla Golf Club and the PGA Championship. Thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all by the reaction, and those people who have their money on Brooks Koepka could very well get paid. I mean, we know what this guy does in major championships, and especially the PGA and the US Open. Now, one thing I think going against him maybe in this, there's no real scientific evidence here. I don't always like to be on the defending champion. Guys don't often go back to back. And the other thing that's a little bit more realistic anyway, is Brooks Koepka had not been in good form at all prior to that win. Now he did come out and say, look, I got to get my act together and I need to rededicate myself. And, I think maybe the bigger story there is, and we've seen John Rahm kind of talk that way. We've seen Dustin Johnson, have that storyline. Maybe the Liv doesn't always keep guys on edge and on their toes, because it is, let's go play 54 holes. Let's wear shorts. Let's listen to rock and roll music. And, oh, by the way, there's all that money sitting in my bank account. I don't really have to do much otherwise. Maybe it lends itself to, some complacency like that. I don't know. But Brooks got his act together as promised. And I imagine he's going to be, I would expect him to play well at Valhalla. Is he going to win? I don't know. I was on him. You remember on your show, we were on him last year at Oak Hill. What do we got? What do we got? Oh, I thought that was like the horn that they blow if a hockey goal happened or something like that. But we were on him last year at Oak Hill. We were on Victor Hovland too. Had the 1-2 punch going there. I'm not sure either of those guys will be in the final pairing this year. I haven't made a play yet for the PGA, and I don't want to play Brooks at 15 because, you and I both, we knew there would be that reaction. Oh my gosh, here comes a major. Here comes Brooks. And if you have 20 to 1 or better in your pocket, that's a good ticket. I don't really want 15. I've even seen 12. I've seen 16. I hate to make bets just in reaction, being reactionary. If I had bet Brooks a long time ago and got 28 or 25 or whatever, yeah, I'd like to see that he got a win. But I do wonder about it was surprising that win kind of came out of nowhere because he hasn't been playing that well. So we'll see what he's like in another week.
Sean Alvarez, happy Wednesday, guys. I am here to say hi to Jeff, but staying for Brady's picks. Well, Sean, that's why you are Mr. Smooth. You are a smart man. Shout out, of course, to Mr. Russell Saylor. And Brady, as you were talking a few minutes ago, he said you're due as well. I'm going to transition and stay here for a minute before we get back over to this week's tournament. I'm staring at the PGA Championship, the second major. With a lot of question marks. Mr. Oberg, Ludwig out this week because of knee soreness. Scotty Scheffler out as they're anticipating their first child. Yet I look at the odds. Scotty Scheffler right now at Circa. Good afternoon, Mr. Benson. Good afternoon, Mr. Stevens. Plus 425. The next closest, Rory at 13 to 1. Brooks at 15 to 1, John Rahm 17 to 1 with Xander, Oberg, plus 18 to 1 Wyndham Clark 27-1, Colin Morikawa with DeChambeau at 31-1. Now, we talked backstage. I have a real hard time with 120, 130, 140 golfers to get to Scotty Scheffler, the rest versus rust. Will he be ready? Will he actually be playing in this tournament at 4-1? Are you in the same thought process there? And of those guys that I gave you, is there anyone, with some time to go that kind of piques your interest without Scotty?
I'm definitely in the same camp with you on Scheffler and Oberg. It's unfortunate. I imagine he's taking this week off because by the time we roll around to Valhalla, he will be okay. And, he's a phenomenal player. Do I want to take a guy that short? I don't know. It seemed he played so well at Augusta. Have we seen enough of Ludwig Oberg to know that his game can win any major? I think the answer is probably yes. But how there's some guys, Rory McIlroy's a perfect example, Brooks Koepka, they're probably more suited for US Opens and PGA championships than they might be the Master. I mean, all four majors are really different. I guess the US Open and the PGA may be the most similar to one another. And maybe the Masters and the British are also similar to one another. But the point is here, not often do we have a player that has a game that he can win all four majors. We haven't seen many guys pull that trick off other than the game's very, very best. Some guys are just suited for certain majors. So Oberg, is he a better fit for the Masters than he is the PGA? We really don't know that answer yet. Now his game looks like he can tackle anything. And I love the guy. He's fantastic. And I imagine health-wise he'll be okay. That's why he's taking this week off. We'll see. I might land on him at 16 and looks like he's drifted a little bit to 18 now because of the knee issue. Scotty, I don't want to put any money on Scotty because, like you said, first of all, in a field this large, the Masters was a totally different animal. 89 guys or so in the Masters. And we've talked about this where probably only 30 of them really can win. PGA is a different story. You've got the live players involved as well. So, this is probably now taking over as the very best field in golf. It was always kind of 1-2 with the Players Championship. Well, now, this is probably number one. So those odds on Scotty look even shorter, if you will, than they did certainly at Augusta. But that's not really it for me so much as what he's got going on in his life right now. Like you say, how much is he practicing golf? Obviously, he's got a ton on his mind. How much, let's say the baby's born tomorrow. How much rest is he going to get? He's going to be up spending some long nights with that child. And, I've heard one guy argue with me saying, he's got help. He's got a nanny. He's not going to be, losing sleep. Yeah, there's that as well, but I'm not completely buying it. I think we know enough about Scotty Scheffler and the person he is. He is going to be absolutely 100% dedicated to being a father and spending time with that child himself. He's not going to just shove this off on some help and say, I got to go practice golf. I don't think he's that guy. So, I think there's a lot of reasons to not jump in on Scotty Scheffler right now yet anyway. Maybe we get some reports from a practice round or something, if he's even in the field next week, and we hear that everything looks fine, and then maybe a jump on him then. But I don't want to do it right now. There's too much out there that could go wrong.
Good friend of the show, Brian Gaskell. Next Thursday, I'll be at South Point watching the PGA with a few hot dogs in hand from my favorite hot dog cart. That is absolutely the truth. Trust me.
No doubt about it.
All
Have
right,
you ever heard that? I got a little story for you.
Okay.
I used to work at the studio there at the South Point for 5.5 years and became great friends with Vinny Malauulu and Jimmy Vaccaro and Chris Andrews. Love those guys. They run a fantastic shop. The hot dog cart, visited it many times. But there's an old story that Jimmy Vaccaro tells Michael Gahn, the owner of the South Point, used to own the Barbary Coast and has owned a number of casinos here in Las Vegas. And Jimmy's, for the most part, always been his guy. But he asked Mr. Gahn one time or something like, hey, this sports book racket, is there an opportunity for me to maybe just take over the hot dog cart, And Michael Gahn laughed at him, kind of citing what a money machine that hot dog cart is and has been for years. It's an easier buck than the sports book is. That's for sure.
Jimmy is a hoot of all hoots. Whenever I get there, I'm looking for the white sweatshirt. I'm looking to say hello. Him and Chris has signed both the books that he wrote. I have a timeshare right across the street at the Grandview. So if I don't have to work on the Strip, I just stay at the Grandview, and I call the South Point my second home. There's nothing they don't have. You never have to leave. I mean, you want to go bowl, go bowl. Want to go watch a movie, watch a movie. Watch a rodeo. You got the race book, the sports book. Anything you want to eat is right there.
Yeah, and maybe the very best restaurant in town. And that's saying a lot because the food here is through the roof. One of the top cities in America for food. But Michael's, after Michael Gahn, Michael's restaurant at the South Point is as good as it gets. I've been lucky enough to eat there one time. It's expensive, and I was able to afford it. Jeff, we had a celebratory dinner with my teammates after we won the Hilton Super Contest. Yeah. All that money in my pocket was the only time I could make it to Michael's.
I've heard nothing but raven reviews. And again, I'm hoping I will be out that way for the World Series poker in July. I'll enjoy the 115-degree heat. Meet up with you, maybe Mr. Yeomans and a few others. We could talk some shop and have some good time getting ready for football. How's that sound?
I'm all ears. Just let me know.
All right. We have a tournament this week. And as you like to allude to, a signature event. The top dogs are here. Defending champ Wyndham Clark. Rory McIlroy is the favorite, but the stage is yours, my friend.
Okay. Yeah. As I mentioned, it's an exciting tournament. Like you said, the big names are here. We're on the doorstep of a major. I think it's perfectly placed this year. The Wells Fargo and this golf course before the PGA Championship. I love this 2-week combo that we have going here. As far as what I looked at, this one jumps off the page for me at Quail Hollow and at Torrey Pines. I can't really think of any other two golf courses on the PGA Tour where total driving is the statistic that I put a lot of emphasis on this week. And total driving is a combination of length and accuracy. And it's gone to show over time that it's very, very important at both Torrey Pines and Quail Hollow. And you'll see some crossover success as well. Jason Day has won at both properties off the top of my head. Driving distance, strokes gained off the tee. I've been reading this week on social media. I think the average length of a drive at a normal tour event week to week is in the neighborhood of like 285, 290. And here at Quail Hollow, it's over 300 yards. It's like 301. And more drivers are hit here. Obviously you have an option off the tee. Guy might want to take a 3-wood, might want to take a long iron. Everybody's going driver here because you kind of have to. You have to be long. You have to be straight. So total driving distance, strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, that's a commonplace. We always have to look at that every week. We've got some extremely long approach shots here this week. Most of the approach shots, especially when you include the par threes, you got long par threes here. So the majority of the approach shots are going to be from 175 to over 200 yards. Scrambling is very important. It's one of the hardest tournaments of the year to hit greens and regulation. So you're going to miss greens and regulation, and you got to be able to scramble to get up and down. The par fours, most of them in the neighborhood of 450 to over 500 yards. Strokes gained putting on Bermuda grass. Yes, it's overseeded, but you've got that Bermuda grass base, and I think it'll behave that way for the most part. And then finally, bogey avoidance, which is not always a statistic I like to look at, but I probably do so more so at major championships than anywhere else. And obviously we have a major championship venue, and this is a tournament when things are this difficult. If you can avoid making bogeys, that is going to be an area where you can separate yourself and move up the leaderboard. We can't always say that week to week on the PGA Tour, but when you have a test like this, bogey avoidance, I think certainly comes into play. So that being said, I have landed on Sahith Theegala, and I've noticed that everybody else has this week as well, and that always disappoints me. I mean, he makes a ton of sense, but it seems like everybody in the world has figured that out. And you know how those plays go. I spoke with Jeff Sherman, a fantastic golf odds maker at the Superbook here in Las Vegas, and asked him about my plays, and he said, yeah, we're getting a lot of recreational play on Theegala. I said, yeah, it seems like that. I'm seeing sharp play on Theegala too. A lot of guys I respect in the betting space for golf, I believe are on him as well. So, maybe everybody wins with Theegala this week. This was a real interesting tip. Speaking of sharp guys, Dave Tyndall, who writes for Betfair, he's a golf tipster in the UK and a friend of mine. I saw he put this up. Theegala is one of his picks as well. This is not only Bermuda grass, but a Tiff Eagle Bermuda grass. That's the type of Bermuda grass it is. The last 6 events, Sahith Theegala has played on Tiff Eagle Bermuda. His worst finish has been 9th, and he's had 2 runner-ups. So he's pretty good here. The last 36 rounds, he is number 1 in strokes gained putting on Bermuda grass, 10th in strokes gained off the tee, 17th in greens in regulation gained, and 22nd in scrambling. He seems like he is on the verge of something big. He's competed extremely well at Phoenix. That's a correlated course for me. Torrey Pines, Bay Hill, those big boy golf courses, total driving, all that good stuff. He has been knocking on the door at all those tournaments, and he might be ready to kick it in. I also went with Siwoo Kim at 42-1. By the way, I got the Theegala at 35-1, which is a really good number. I've only seen that at one shop, and it has since come down to like 33. I think Circa is now dealing 27 on Theegala. So I would say 30 or better, and you're okay. I probably wouldn't want to take anything lower than 30. Siwoo Kim, I got at 42. I've seen him pretty much in that neighborhood. Some places lower, some places maybe a little bit higher. Top 12 finishes at both Torrey Pines and in Phoenix. 5th in this field the last 36 rounds for strokes gained off the tee, 10th on approach, and 16th in bogey avoidance. And then Benny On. I'm going to go back to Byung Hoon On this week. Got him at 45-1. He was good to us last week in Texas. He's 4th. He was 2nd last week in driving distance in that field. He was 11th on approach and 11th in greens in regulation. He's also 9th in this field over the last 36 rounds for hole proximity in that magic distance, 175 to 200 yards on approach. He's 9th in hole proximity in that area. And he's got top 10 finishes at both Bay Hill and Phoenix. Also, by the way, Benny On, 28th in 2017 at Quail Hollow when this course was set up to host the PGA Championship. So, it certainly played differently that week in 2017 when Justin Thomas won. Probably played more difficult than it will as a typical Wells Fargo championship. And on way back in 2017, who's improved a great deal as a player in my mind since then, finished 28th. So not a bad little box check there either. Corey Connors at 55-1. I have seen him higher. I've seen him as high as 60. I don't love 55. I think that's the bottom. That's the low point. If you can get better than that, more power to you. I probably wouldn't take lower than that. Finished 8th here last year at the Wells Fargo when it was also another signature event status field that he was competing against. He's number 1 in the field for over the last 36 rounds for greens and regulation gains, and he's number 2 for strokes gained approach. Also, since 2016, Saw this courtesy of my friend Justin Ray on Twitter. He is tied with Rory McIlroy for the very best in the field for strokes gained ball striking since 2016 at Quail Hollow. And maybe, this is a little bit of narrative street here, but maybe he's a little bit inspired by his fellow Canadian countryman, Taylor Pendrith, getting the win last week. These Canadians are dead set on this year's President's Cup, which is being hosted in Montreal by a fellow Canadian, Mike Weir. So these Canadians, as the summer grows on here and we get closer to September and making those President's Cup selections, I think these Canadians absolutely want to represent in their homeland. So there could be a little something there. I'll say this, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't necessarily translate into a win, but I don't think it hurts either. Then I went with Adam Schenk at 66-1, another guy that was great for us last week. Had a 9th place finish at the Byron Nelson. He has a great short game, 60th on tour in strokes gained putting and 46th in scrambling. In Texas last week, he was 9th for strokes gained off the tee and 3rd in greens and regulation. So he really has the entire game here that should translate well at Quail Hollow, and he's in good form right now. Also, spoke with my friend and golf partner and Hall of Fame bookmaker Nick Bogdanovich. He is also on Adam Schenk, and also he is on this guy as well this week, and that is Matthew Pavone, the Frenchman. I got him at 135-1, and that's the highest number I've seen all week. It quickly came down, and I'm seeing him anywhere at circa. I'm seeing him all the way down to 85. I think the consensus number on Pavone is about 100-1, and I'm okay with that. I probably wouldn't take a whole lot lower. You have to remember, there's only 69 guys in the field this week. So, you got a guy at triple digits. That seems like pretty good value just on the surface. Pavone is a winner. If you're not familiar with that name, he won the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. Again, a correlated course for me. Came out of nowhere and cost me another runner-up. I was on Nikolai Højgaard, finished 2nd. I think you were too, Jeff, and Matthew Pavone. So I think this guy is absolutely a player, and not only at triple digits and the value and whatnot, I think he can win. If you just look at some of his measurables, 18th in this field over the last 36 rounds for strokes gained approach, and 17th on the par 4s that measure between 450 and 500 yards. So that's it, a 6-pack of plays for me. Again, Sahith Theegala, Siwoo Kim, Benny On, Corey Connors, Adam Schenk, and Matthew Pavone.
We added a little on the top 20s as well, Brady.
Yeah, played all those guys for top 20 finishes as well. I'm going to typically do that every single week. I did not do it for the team event. Some of these more random events where I'm, dumbing down the risk or something like that. But in a standard event, the majors, what have you, yeah, typically everything I play outright, I also play for a top 20. Now it's going to cost you a little more this week with only 39 or 69 players in the field. For instance, Sahith Theegala is about even money to finish top 20. And the other guys anywhere from, plus 130, plus 150, plus 175. I think Pavone was better than 2-1 for a top 20, but not quite as juicy on the top 20 finish prices this week because, the field is half the size.
I want to ask you a question because, again, a little foggy upstairs. The older we get, it's easier to remember stuff a million years ago versus what happened today or yesterday. But the Pavone and Højgaard, I swear to God, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Matt Yeomans on Pavone that week?
I don't think so. I don't know of anybody that was on Pavone. I mean, he basically was almost an entirely unknown guy there. He's really a veteran on the European tour. But that was not his first ever PGA Tour event, but I think earlier, like maybe in Hawaii, where that was his first time ever playing on the PGA Tour. Maybe he had some spot starts here and there, but this is his first season. And yeah, he won in I think his 4th PGA Tour start or something like that. So I think he was relatively unknown to a lot of people. Humans might have been on him. I was on Højgaard. Steven Jager was another guy that flashed at that tournament, ended up finishing third. He was the 54-hole leader, if I recall. And Jager has since gotten a win in Texas. And I know some sharp people that are on him this week here for the Wells Fargo. And he makes sense. Again, playing well at Torrey Pines. He's a big hitter of the golf ball. That's his strength, is off the tee. And we've kind of illustrated that, it all starts at the Wells Fargo off the tee.
Any head-to-heads this week?
Yeah, I landed on 4 of them. And these are kind of a mixed bag of where I got these as far as different books. So they're not all necessarily universally available, but do some shopping and maybe you can find at least a couple of them. I took Harris English at -110 over Denny McCarthy. Both guys had good finishes here last year. English finished 3rd. McCarthy was 8th. Coming into that, prior to that, McCarthy had missed 3 straight cuts at Quail Hollow. Harris English has never missed a cut at Quail Hollow. I think he's a little bit more suited for this golf course than McCarthy is, despite that 8th place finish for Denny last year. Corey Connors at -142 over Ricky Fowler. I took Sahith Theegala at plus money, +105 over Colin Morikawa. And then I took Theegala again at a pick'em, -110 over Max Homa.
All right, we got our hands full again. Signature event, 69 golfers, no Scheffler, no Ludwig. As this is a amazing back-to-back weeks, as we have Quail Hollow this week, and of course next week the second major at Valhalla, correct?
Yeah, Valhalla in Louisville, Kentucky. A Jack Nicklaus design.
And Brooks Koepka, the defending champ, correct?
Brooks Koepka, the defending champ. I can't quite remember the year. I want it, for some reason, I'm thinking 2005. Tiger has won a PGA championship here at Valhalla. That was an electric finish. You probably remember, Jeff, with local Las Vegas resident here, Bob May, who was kind of a relative no-name at the point. That was absolutely his career highlight. And he went toe-to-toe with Tiger. I think they were in a playoff. They went extra holes, and Tiger would drop a putt and May would come right back on top of him. That was a thrilling playoff that understandably eventually went to one of the greatest golfers of all time, in Mr. Woods. And then in 2014, Rory won the last major he's won here, a PGA championship at Valhalla. Got that done over Ricky Fowler and Phil Mickelson that year, kind of finishing up in the dark. But what can you draw from that? Hard to say. I mean, Rory's, his biggest weapon is the driver. Tiger, of course, was a guy that could do everything. So PGA championships in recent history certainly have been has been a major that I think favors or caters to the bombers. I think it's more of a bomber, as evidenced by Brooks Koepka and Victor Hovland last year. You're certainly going to get some guys that kind of move in and make a name for themselves on the first page of the leaderboard that aren't bombers. Corey Connors was a guy that did tremendously well at Oak Hill for a minute and then eventually kind of gave way to the guys that are the bigger hitters. So, I think we're probably going to see a bigger hitter come out victorious. Again, you mentioned before we got into the breakdown, you were talking about some of the other names that you're looking at. I haven't made a play for the PGA just yet, but I might take a hard look at Bryson DeChambeau. We know he is the bomber of all bombers, and he's been playing very well. Had a near miss at the PGA Championship at Harding Park when Colin Morikawa won, and that particular PGA probably wasn't as bomberish as Oak Hill or as this one might be. A little bit more narrow at Harding Park, and that's Colin Morikawa. He's not a bomber; he's extremely accurate. But anyway, he's a name I've got at the forefront of my handicap right now. I've done a little bit of research so far, some early glances at some things, but obviously I'll dive into that full head of steam next week. But I would say I kind of took a glance at Matthew Fitzpatrick. He's kind of turned into more of a bomber than he certainly was. But, we were talking about it earlier where guys are better fits for certain majors. I'm starting to become convinced that Fitzpatrick, obviously he's won a U.S. Open. I think he works there, especially on a certain type of U.S. Open track. But I think he might be a guy that's more suited for the Masters than he is the PGA. So I doubt if I'll end up on him. I might. I got to do some more research. But Bryson is another guy that I'm thinking I may land on as well.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, Brookline, U.S. Open, and every time horses for courses from our good friend and colleague, Mr. Dubs Anderson, over at
my old friend, yes.
And I was watching him over the weekend on FanDuel TV, getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. The accent, second to none. You know, the peaches. We got to get the peaches. So scroll has been going the whole time. Everyone here, standing room only. Shout out to Brian Gaskell, of course, Mr. Sean Alvarez, Mr. Saylor. Can go find Brady's work on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer. But as I always do, Brady, I let you wrap up the show here, where they can find the rest of your work, and of course, what time and where to find you on TV on Sports Grid as well.
Yeah, I'm on Sports Grid probably about 5 or 6 days a week. Wednesday is a heavy day for me because, of course, we're going into the first round of the golf tournament. So I'll be on there pretty soon here at 7:30 Eastern. And then again later this evening at 10 p.m. Eastern. And you can find me there, throughout the rest of the weekend. I usually come on in the mornings on the weekend to do kind of a little in-game report. We were talking about that, after we get to Saturday and before Sunday, where might the live wagering opportunities exist for golf? Of course, I write for the PGA Tour. My article should be up any minute now. The one where I talked with bookmakers and offered a lot of my own personal betting thoughts in there as well. I found out that a lot of the bookmakers are on the same guys I am this week, Jeff. So, that's a good thing. I mentioned Thagala being a recreational play. I think I have it surrounded with recreational and sharp plays this week. I ended my article there. You'll see it up there. Hopefully this doesn't end up on the edit room floor, but I said, no matter what, like we say here in Las Vegas Raider country, just win, baby.
I hear you. This is the week we're going to break through, as Russell said earlier today, way overdue, like my high school yearbook. Back in 84, I'll date myself. Yeah, that's when I still got the book up on my mantle. So still collecting interest there. So anyways, from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, the one and only Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfers, to everyone that watched, let's cash some tickets this week, enjoy ourselves, have some fun. And of course, next Wednesday, this time, we'll be getting ready for our second major. See you soon.